Vav Amud Aleph, we're at the bottom of Yud Daled on base, the first wide line, or third wide line, more accurately. So, let's take a look. The gemorah says, we're 3 lines before the wide line. Rav Moshe Yadei V'Kar Krishma. Rav, he washed his hands and read Krishma. Va'anach tefillin, put on tefillin, v'tzoli, and then he prayed. So we just. So the gemorah says, how can he do this? V'atanya, it says in the brisa, a chofer kuch lemeis, b'kever, potem krishma. Someone's digging a grave. He's digging a grave. Actually, they used to bury in a cave, and in the cave they had these little chambers, a long thing in a cave. So that's called a kuch. So we'll see why that's important in a second. But someone's digging. He's potem krishma mit tefillin. He doesn't have to say krishma. He doesn't have to daven. He doesn't have to put on tefillin. Makol mitzvah muras b'Torah. He doesn't have to do any mitzvahs. First white line. Why doesn't he have to do any mitzvahs? Because you're Isaac b'mitzvah. Potem mitzvah. You're doing one mitzvah. You put it from the other one. You dial it on the base. First white line. So he's put him a column mitzvah muras. He gives man krishma. What happens? Krishma time comes. What should you do? He should get out of the bar, get out of this cave, wash his hands, put on tefillin, v'keir krishma mispalal. Say krishma and daven. The gemorah asks, I don't understand. Hagufa kasha. What's going on over there? Reisha, originally you said, my potter. You said he's potter. If you're digging a grave, you're potter. You don't have to say krishma. The sefer chayiv. In the sefer it says, the end part it says, go out, zman krishma comes, wash your hands, say krishma. So it's a contradiction. Is he chayiv in krishma? Or is he potter in krishma? The gemorah answers, haloi kasha. That's not a kasha. Why isn't it a kasha? Sefer betray, reisha bechad. The end of the Mishnah is talking about where there's 2 people digging. The first part of the Mishnah is talking about where there's 1 person digging. So if there's 1 person digging, you're potter. You don't have to stop. But there's 2 people digging, you can stop as a krishma. So who cares if there's 1 person or 2 people? If you're doing a mitzvah, you're doing a mitzvah. Why, if there's 2 people now, you have to stop as a krishma? So what they explain is, since we're talking about this kuch, this narrow thing, and only 1 person can do the digging there at a time. There's only access, it's tefach by tefach, whatever it is. Only 1 guy can actually do the digging. And the other guy, they're taking shifts, right? Or 1 guy gets it further back and he takes it further out. But 1 guy's doing all the work. So mainly if there's 2 people doing it, while he's digging, you get out there, say krishma. If there's 1 guy, you potter. So what do we see from here? First of all, it would appear. Let's keep going further with the gemorah first. We got a kasha on Rav. Why? Because Rav, what did Rav do? Rav washed his hands. He said krishma, put tefillin on, then he davened. That's what it says. Mashi yadei, kar krishma, anach tefillin v'tzali. The first thing is, it looks like he said krishma and then he put on tefillin. We're going to see soon. That's weird. He says krishma and then he puts on tefillin. So kasha Rav Rabbi Shua ben Karcha. So why we got a kasha on Rav from the Tana Rabbi Shua ben Karcha? Why? Does he think that you first mekabel yourself ol machar shemayim? He first said krishma, v'achal mitzvahs, and then he put on tefillin. And Reb Shua ben Karcha said first all mitzvahs, and then you do the first all machar shemayim and then mitzvahs, and the Amar Reb Shua ben Karcha lahagdim kriya lakriya. When did Reb Shua ben Karcha say you first have to do all machar shemayim and then all mitzvahs? That's been kriya lakriya. You first say the parsha of all Malchus Shemayim, and then you say the parsha of all mitzvahs. But it's not a problem of actually putting on tefillin. Is there a problem of reading before you do the mitzvah? Of course, there's no problem there's no problem of reading before you do the mitzvah. V'su misavak le'Reb Shimon Levi. V'su misavak le'Reb Shimon Karcha. Does Rav hold like Reb Shimon Karcha? V'amar Reb Chaim Barashi. Zimnis again have come made the Rav. I was by Rav a bunch of times. I was in his house. Umakdim umashi yadei. He washed his hands. Umavarach and he made a bracha. Umastilon and then he taught us Torah. Umastilon perkin. Umanach tefillin. Then he put on tefillin. V'hadakar krishma and then he said krishma. So, what do we see from here? That I was by him a bunch of times. And he taught us Torah, then he put on tefillin, and then he said Krishma. How could he put on tefillin fast? Because the Zman Krishma didn't come yet. That's why he put on tefillin fast. If you're going to tell me that how could he put on tefillin before Krishma, surely first you do Ol Malchus Shemaim and then you should be doing the mitzvahs, right? That's what the Gemara wants to say here. How could Rav put on tefillin before he says Krishma? Surely you have to first be Kabul Ol Malchus Shemaim and then you do mitzvahs. So Imkain Maya Sadusei. If we're talking about a case here where he put on tefillin before the Zman Krishma, he put on tefillin because Zman tefillin is about an hour before Zman Krishma. He put on tefillin, then he said Krishma. So, Imkain, if that's the case, Ma'aseh Sadusei, what's he come to testify here? That's partial. Of course, you put on tefillin when it's Zman tefillin, then you say Krishma. He's got to be saying some type of chiddush over here. Reb Chaim Barashi lafukim miman da'amar l'mish ein tzarich levarech. You know what he's coming to tell me? He's actually, the whole chiddush is this word he said he's mevarech. Which bracha? Birchas HaTorah. It's coming to tell me that you might think you don't have to make a Birchas HaTorah if you're just learning Mishnayos. Komash Malan, his chiddush is da'af le'mishnah nami tzarich levarech. You have to make a bracha even if you're learning Mishnah. That's what his chiddush is. So we call Makam Kasha Rav. It's still, what's Pshat in Rav? Okay. Why didn't he put on tefillin beforehand? I guess that's his kasha. Kasha the Rav, shluchehu the avis. He didn't have tefillin because the shliach wasn't there. What? There was the shliach. He sent the shliach to go get his tefillin. The shliach wasn't there. The shliach didn't show up, so that's why he didn't have tefillin yet. So take a look in Rashi. Take a look in Rashi. Umevarach ala Torah. Rashi says umevarach ala Torah. What's the bracha the Rav was making over here? He was making a birchas HaTorah. Umasni pirken, and he taught Torah. So what's he trying to prove from here? Alma makdim ulasik b'Torah. Dainu asiyat mitzvah mekami malchus shemaim. How could Rav teach Torah? How could he learn Torah before he was Mekabel al Malchus Shemaim, before he took on himself the yoke? Krishma says you first have to take the yoke and then you do mitzvahs. How could he teach Torah before the yoke? That's how Rashi's understanding gemorah. So how could that's the raya? How could he learn Torah, which is a mitzvah, before he's saying Krishma? So if you're going to tell me because it's a bit confusing because Gemara says he did a few things. He learned Torah, he put on tefillin, then he said Krishma. So what's the kasha from? Rashi says the kasha is from the fact that since he taught Torah, we learned by him Torah before the Zman Krishma. So in that case, why would he teach Torah before being Mekabel al Malchus Shemaim? Surely before you do anything, he should be Mekabel al Malchus Shemaim and then go teach Torah. Okay. So take a look in Taisus Manach Tefillin and Matzli. So Taisus says Taisus makes a whole dig from here. So, in other words, what happened with Rav? The lashon is he he taught Torah, then where is it inside? Okay. So take a look at Taisus. Taisus says, let's say you don't have tefillin yet. You started davening, you didn't have tefillin. You're in the airport, you're traveling, you don't have tefillin. And you get up to Gal Yisrael, and then someone comes in with tefillin. You see from here, he put on tefillin, then he was davening. It says he said Krishma, then he put on tefillin. So Taisus understands, he did it in the order, he davened in the order. He said Krishma, he put on tefillin, then he davened. So it's mashma, you could put on tefillin, bein gulul tefillah. V'chein betalis, also you could put on a talis. Okay, this is a nice dig. Skip 5 lines in Taisus. Now Taisus, v'hevi raya mehacha, made the Rav. And there's a raya from here. You see the Rav, he said Krishma, then he put on his tefillin, and then he davened Shemona Esrei. Okay? All good. You could say that you're right, you could put on tefillin. And he wanted to say originally that talis is the same thing as tefillin. What's the difference between talis and tefillin? He says no, there's a difference between talis and tefillin. You could put on tefillin, but you can't put on a talis. Why? Krishma tefillah. They have an integral connection to tefillin. They don't have an integral connection to talis. Even though we're used to putting on talis for tefillah, we daven with put a prayer shawl. But really, what has more of a connection to davening? Your tefillin. In fact, it's called tefillin. It's a lotion of tefillah, right? Tefillin. Kedam b'samach kilometer de sheker. We're going to see in the Gemara in a second that someone that says Krishma without putting on your tefillin, it's like you did a false testimony. So tefillin, you have to wear tefillin when you say Krishma. It's like you did the false testimony if you didn't put tefillin on. It's meidei de sheker. You're saying that Hashem says put on your tefillin, you don't put it on. So you have to put on tefillin when you say Krishma. So you have to put on tefillin when you say Krishma, right? But tzitzis doesn't say, it's not meidei de sheker if you don't put on tzitzis. So says Taisvis, and I skip a few lines. About tzitzis, there's another thing you could say. V'tfila nami kedamen krishma mispala zul malchus shemayim. Sorry, about tzitzis she'ena elachayves talis shemedesh talis chayev ve'im lo yipater. There's another difference between talis and tefillin. Tefillin is a chayves agaver, Taisvis says. You have to wear tefillin. So when you're davening, if you're not wearing tefillin, it's a problem. You have to daven to Hashem, and your body has to have tefillin on it. But tzitzis, there's no chiv on the person to wear tzitzis. Tzitzis is a chiv on the beged. The garment has to have tzitzis. If you have a beged with 4 corners, you have to wear tzitzis. If you don't have a garment with 4 corners, you don't have to wear tzitzis. So therefore, when you daven tefillin, you could stop to put on tefillin, because you have to wear tefillin when you daven. You don't have to wear tzitzis when you daven. Now, he brings a Rav Moshe Makut. He says, I tell you could be doich this raya. You could push off this raya, this proof. Thanks. You can push it. Why? What can you say? Rav put on tefillin before he said Shemona Esrei. You know why? He didn't make a bracha. He put on tefillin without a bracha, and he made a bracha after you daven, you touch it, and then you make a bracha. There's no hefsek which is put on tefillin. Don't bring me a raya from here that you can put on tefillin and say a bracha. He says, I agree. You could bring a raya from here that you could put on tefillin. You could and therefore you could put on talis also. No bracha. Only if you say a bracha is a hefsek. Who said he made a bracha? So someone want to say, you see from here, the only talis without a bracha you could put on, even tzitzis without a bracha you can't put on. Big machlekes. Can you put on tzitzis? Can you put on tefillin with a bracha, without a bracha? I think Allah Almighty, you can say a bracha afterwards, there's no problem. Since we say you could just touch it, tefillin afterwards, touch it afterwards, you make a bracha. Okay. Says the Gemara, we're in the very wide lines. Says the Gemara, thank you very much, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam v'amid. Alma Ula. Kol hakayra krishma b'lei tefillin ki'ilu made edus sheker ba'atzmai. Anyone who in the second last white line, anyone who says krishma without tefillin on his head, it's false testimony. It's interesting what this word ba'atzmai means. It's like he testifies falsely ba'atzmai about himself. In other words, he's saying that, what's the Pasha Pshat? We're sharing saying, you're saying that Hashem commanded us to put on tefillin. You're not wearing tefillin. You're not wearing it. Put it on. So you can't say it without putting on tefillin. Reb Yochanan says, it's like you brought this carbon without pouring the wine. So, interesting, what's the difference between these two lashonos? They're arguing about what it's like, you shouldn't do it. They're arguing how bad it is. What's the difference? So Rabbeinu Yein says, you know what the difference is? I'll tell you what the difference is. If you testify falsely, can you testify afterwards again? No. So we heard you witness, we heard your testimony, we've proved it false, you're out of here. Goodbye. So you can't say it again. So, lefi that opinion, you can't go ahead and say Krishma again afterwards. It won't help you. You already testified falsely. You can't go ahead and say Krishma afterwards with tefillin on. Too late. You blew it. If it's like you did a korban without the nesachim, if you brought a korban without the nesachim, you could bring the nesachim afterwards. So what is he saying? He's saying, you're right. You blew it.
You know what's a good thing?
What?
Via chulam. On Friday night.
Say it afterwards or someone.
You can say it 15 times.
Yeah. So here you could say it afterwards. Say afterwards with what's it called? So that's the difference between these two opinions. Is can you say it afterwards? Nafkamina. What's a nafkamina? Let's say a person knows it's almost says about Krishma. He's got 5 minutes to say Krishma. He doesn't have tefillin. Should you say Krishma without your tefillin? Is it made a sheka? You can't say it. Or do you say no? You can say as long as you put it on afterwards. You're fine. You're good. Put it on afterwards, no problem. Allah Almighty would say Krishma now without your tefillin, and you can say it afterwards. That's not a problem. And baya, you're okay. They say a story about the Chasam Sofer. It's a shtickle of machlekes what this story was exactly. But the Chasam Sofer, when he put on Rabbeinu Tam tefillin, he didn't want to say Krishma with Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. Now, why? Because maybe he was Yetzer with Rashi. Rashi's the real tefillin, and now you're putting on. Now you're saying Krishma without tefillin. You got to say Krishma without tefillin on, and now you're saying Krishma without tefillin on. Meidei de sheka. You're lying. Don't lie. Midvar sheka tirchak. Okay, so you're a chumrah not to wear a ben tam. That's why people don't wear a ben tam, just in case. What are you going to say? You're not going to say Krishma or Rebbeinu Tam.
A lot of people, some people wear a Rebbeinu Tam, some people don't.
Yeah. Shulchan Aruch says you shouldn't. In public, it's mechzik yoreira. Unless you're a big tzaddik, unless you're a big chassid, don't do it. You look like you're trying to impress people. Don't do things to try. People shouldn't think you're trying to. People shouldn't even think you're trying to impress people. Not only should you not do things to try and impress people, you know how to do something that someone could think you're trying to impress people. Very chomer. The Shulchan Aruch is very machmur on doing things that people would think that you're trying to, get covered for. Get covered, yeah. So, interestingly, it turns out there's a machlekes basically then the fi rav. Are you allowed to learn before you daven? So Rashi seems to be saying you can't learn before you daven. Tosfos brings a raya from this rav. The rav taught Torah. Then he said Krishma, then he davened, then he put tefillin on, then he davened. The fi rav, you're allowed to teach Torah before you daven, before you learn. Now the gemorah said maybe that was before the Seis Man Krishma, right? Maybe that was before the Zman. Okay, but you see in the gemorah's kasha, the gemorah assumed that was happening after the Zman. After the Zman Krishma, you taught Torah, and you see that you're allowed to teach Torah. The gemorah's havamim is you're allowed to teach Torah before the Seis Man. Okay, says the gemorah. Last line in Gemara. Amar Reb Yochanan. Says Reb Yochanan. Harei tzishi kabel olav olma chashmaim shleima. Someone wants to do the perfect accepting the yoke of heaven. What should you do?
Because it says ve'amar Reb Yochanan.
Yeah, because we just mentioned Reb Yochanan. Another sheet of Reb Yochanan. Another thing Reb Yochanan says. Someone wants to do the perfect way. What's the best way to be makabel on yourself? Oh, ma'achas shemayim, to accept the yoke of heaven. How do you do it? So first of all, yifna. Go to the bathroom, clear out your intestines. V'yital yadov, wash your hands. V'yaniach tefillin, put on the phylacteries. V'yika krishma, and then say krishma. V'yispal, then you should pray. V'zui malchus shemayim shleim, and this is real, true, good malchus shemayim, right?
So he seems to indicate that our seder of davening is wrong.
Why?
Because he seems to indicate you should say krishma
And then daven.
and then daven.
Yeah, that's what we do. We say krishma, then we daven. Berachas krishma, shma, then you daven shema esra, right?
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah. So that's krishma. That's al malchus shemayim shleima. Now, note that it says v'yital yadav. It doesn't say roichetz yadav. The question is a machlekes Rishonim, what is this washing your hands before you daven? Why do you wake up? You have to wash your hands. So it's a machlekes, the Rosh and the Rashba, big machlekes. Why you have to wash your hands in the morning? Says the Rosh. You know why? You slept. Your hands are. It's called yadayim maskanis. Your hands are all over the place. Your hands get dirty. They touch all dirty. They're touching all sorts of dirty things, body parts. Wash your hands before you pray to Hashem. That's the Rosh, right? It's called yadayim maskanis. It's still yadayim. Says the Rosh, but you know why you have to wash your hands? Because you woke up in the morning, Hashem gave you back in the Shama, and now you're serving a Kodesh Baruch Hu like the Kohen in the base of Mikdash, and Holy of Holies. It's like serving Hashem. And the Kohen had a kiyah, he washed his hands. So we also have to wash our hands like the Kohen Gadol. What's the difference? The difference is, we're going to see in the Gemorah says, if you don't have water, what should you do? You can rub it in ashes and wash your hands in dirt to clean your hands. So what bracha do you make on that? Do you make on that al netilas yadayim or al nekiyas yadayim? According to the Rosh, the mitzvah is nekiyas yadayim. If you're noitel it with that thing, the cup you wash with, is called a netila, is a nitto, I don't know what. So that's why it's called netilas yadayim. That's what he explains. Why you say al netilas yadayim? Because you're washing it. But if you rub it in dirt or in mud, you clean it like that. So then you don't make al netilas yadayim. You'll say al nekiyas yadayim. Another nafkamin is going to be. Another difference is going to be is, so do you need a kli? According to the Rashba, that you're like a kohen, you need a kli. According to the Rosh, you don't need a kli. Just turn on the water, put your hands in, your hands are clean. You don't have to start using a kli to wash. And the third and final difference between the two shittas is, do you have to wash your hands for mincha ma'ariv with a bracha? Mincha ma'ariv, says the Rosh, your hands are dirty, you've been out working all day, at the end of the day, wash your hands, say a bracha until it's a dime. What's the difference, shachris or mincha, musaf, right? Your hands are dirty, go make a bracha. We don't make a bracha, Shulchan Aruch says you don't make a bracha. We only make a bracha in the morning because it's al netilas yadayim. You have a new soul, you're like a kohen, and that bracha covers you for the whole day. Take a look at the Gemara. Second line of the Gemara. Amr of Chia Barabba. Amr of Yechanan. Kol nifne v'noitel yadav v'meniach tefillim kar krishma mispalal. You did it that order. Malal of akasav kilu bottom is beach v'ikra of carbon. If you do this, it's like you built an altar and you sacrificed to Hashem. Tichsev erchatz b'nekir and kabai. I wash with clean hands. The seivas mizbechecha, and I surround your altar. So washing your hands and praying, that's like you brought mizbeach. Now the Gemara is going to ask, as mizbecha Hashem, Amalei Rava said, toval. It's like if you wash your hands, it's like you went to the mikveh. It's like you immersed your entire body. Why? Dichsiv erchat. It says, I washed, and v'leiksiv erchat's kapi. It doesn't say I wash my hands. It says erchat b'nikin kapai, meaning when I wash myself, it's like I wash my whole body just by washing my hands. Washing your hands in the morning, it's as if you washed your whole body. That's what Rava says. What's the mile of washing your whole body? It's more of a tircha. It's more of a teicha to go to the mikveh, wash your entire body before you pray. But washing your hands, that's got the same thing. You wash your hands, it's like you went to the mikveh. It's like you wash your entire body. Amla Ravina Rava, Chazam Mai Haitubur Rabbanon. I saw this Talmud Chacham, this rabbi that came from the west, from Eretz Yisrael, if someone doesn't have water available, there's no water, what should you do? You should wash your hands with chips of wood or in dirt or dust. You should clean your hands another way. He said, you know what? They're saying good. They're right. Mix of erchat b'mayim. Does the pasuk say I wash my hands with water? No, it says erchat's b'nikiyon. B'nikayon. It says I clean my hands. It doesn't matter how you clean it. Water, mud, however you clean it. You had dirt on your hands, now it's clean. Call maybe the monkey. However you get it clean, it's good. Use alcohol, it's fine. Nice and clean. Daha. Rav Chisda light amanda mahada maya b'idin slicer. Rav Chisda cursed someone who ran off the water time of prayers. And Rashi says, why would he curse the guy? What did the guy do wrong? He's trying to get water? Because he's missing Zman Tefillah. It means he's going to miss the time to say Kriya Shema. He says, no, I need to go, I need to wash my hands. You don't need to wash your hands. Take anything, rub it on something, clean your hands. You don't need water. Why are you acting like such a, again, it's going back to what I was talking about before, acting too frum, acting too religious. You don't need water. Why are you acting?
Does it work for food also?
We're going to get there. I don't want to. We're going to get there. But if a person doesn't have halacha l'maisa, if you're in a car, you're traveling, you don't have water. So what I remember is that you can hold your sandwich in a bag.
That's what I.
Right. You don't touch the bread. But I don't know if you can rub it with mud. I don't think that's the thing. Vahani Mili says the gemorah lekrishma. When do you have to wash your hands with water? When is it good enough to rub your hands on the mud? Hani Mili krishma. Aval tefillah mahader. But for tefillah, for davening, you have to run and try and find water. In other words, we see from it that tefillah is more common than krishma. You might think, why should tefillah be more common than krishma? Why is tefillah stricter than krishma? If a krishma I can rub my hand on something and say krishma, why for tefillah do I have to go and wash my hands with water? Krishma is d'oraisa, tefillah is d'rabbanan. So we'll see. Vakama, how much you have to go to wash your hands? Ad parsa. Parsa is 4 mil. Mil's like 18 minutes. A parsa is like 72 minutes basically. Person should walk for an hour to get water before he davens. V'ani mil lekame. Because if you're on a journey and you want to daven, but there's water in another hour in front of you, keep going. Aval chayra, if the water is behind you, we just passed whatever it is. Afilu mila nechayza. You don't have to go back, mil, which is a quarter of a parsa. You don't have to go back for 12 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever it is. Mil nechayza, apachas mil chayza. You don't have to go back a mil, but if you have to go back 10 minutes to get the water to daven, you have to go back. So Chazal gave an exact share how long you have to travel in order to get your water. If it's in front of you, if you're going that way anyway, so wait, don't pray yet. Wait for an hour, pray another hour. But if it's behind you 10 minutes, so go back 10 minutes, get your water, and daven. Halacha l'maisa is a big shayla. What happens if you're at home, you're not traveling, and we're going to see. It's also, they want to learn from here, Lagabi, a minion. You're supposed to daven with a minion. So they say it's a similar thing as water. You can go out and come back. Is a car the same thing? Is it less of a tircha? How you look at a car traveling? Okay, so it's getting pretty late here. A quick shaila. So we see that you have to have your tefillin on say Kriya Shema. If you say Kriya Shema without tefillin, it's like your false testimony. Which part of Kriya Shema? Can you say the first pasuk? According to many shittas, you're yet with the first pasuk of Kriya Shema. Shema Yisrael, Shem Ken Shem Echad, Baruch Shem, V'ahavta even, until Levavecha. You didn't talk about tefillin. Is that called Yomei Dei Sheker? Do you need tefillin on for the first pasuk? So l'chayr is some achronim say that guess what? You could be to the first pasuk Krishma, say v'hafta if you don't have tefillin, and then the rest of it, where you talk about tefillin, for that part you need to have tefillin on. But the first pasuk, you don't need tefillin for that. Others want to say no, you need Krishma, you need tefillin for the whole Krishma. But that's not the mashmais. The mashmais says the problem with saying Krishma without tefillin on is it's a lie. But if you're just saying the first pasuk where we don't talk about tefillin, you did nothing wrong. Just another nekuda is that the Marsha says, what does it mean? He's made Eidei Sheker ba'atzmai. A little thought. Why did they say he's ba'atzmai made Eidei Sheker? With himself. He himself is testifying falsely. So what he says is there's always three isis a person has. There's three simonim. You've got Shabbos, Milah, and Tefillin. And you always need two, right? Chazal says you always need two. So that's why on Shabbos you don't have Tefillin. Because you've got Shabbos, you don't need to wear Tefillin. So what does it mean he's made Eidei Sheker? He said ba'atzmai. It means he's being made only with the Milah he has. He's no longer being made with Tefillin. So that's a false testimony. One aid is also to testify. You can't testify with one aid, you need two aid him. He needs his Tefillin and his Milah. That's how he explains the words ba'atzmai, he himself. Okay, we'll wrap it up here. Have a wonderful day. There's a lot of halachas from